Peter Pan, piped a peck.
Welcome back to another episode of Hollywood versus Cleveland, salty movie and media reviews. Today we're going to discuss Whiplash from 2014, written and directed by Damien Chazelle, starring Miles Teller, J.K. Simmons, Melissa Benoist, and Paul Reiser. The editor of this film, Tom Cross, won an Oscar and went on to edit Chazelle's La La Land as well. And of course, J.K. Simmons, amazing performance as the abusive music instructor. He won a Best Oscar for Best Supporting Actor.
Wow, thank you.
Okay, folks, this is your official spoiler alert. We're about to get into Whiplash with spoilers all over the place. So if you haven't seen this great film, you should definitely check it out and then watch this analysis. All right, Purse. Whiplash tells the story of Andrew Neiman, the son of a failed writer who dreams of becoming a truly great jazz drummer. And one thing, John, I just now for the first time noticed at the very beginning when Fletcher asks what his name is.
What's your name?
Andrew Neiman, sir.
But he is called Neiman the rest of the movie, which goes with Fletcher just being a jerk.
That is interesting.
Andrew is a student at the acclaimed Schaefer Conservatory of Music, where we meet Fletcher, the antagonist or villain of our movie. Fletcher is an abusive, borderline sadistic music instructor. While Neiman's dream is to become a great jazz drummer, if not the best drummer in the world.
Because I want to be great.
And you're not.
I want to be one of the greats.
Fletcher's dream is to teach or create a truly great musician like Charlie Bird Parker by any means necessary.
I wasn't there to conduct. Any fucking moron can wave his arms and keep people in tempo. I was there to push people beyond what's expected of them. Otherwise, we're depriving the world of the next Louis Armstrong, the next Charlie Parker.
Our story begins with the opening shot of the movie right before Andrew and Fletcher meet. And I love this shot as we move slowly down the hall. We don't know it yet, but this is Fletcher's POV or point of view shot approaching Andrew as he practices. And I love it because there's almost a horror film quality to it. Like we're in the killer's POV, slowly but inevitably approaching his victim.
I'm sorry.
No, stay.
The tension in this movie is fantastic. To me, that's like prevalent throughout.
But right off the bat, John, I want to talk about the ending of Whiplash. I love this film, but I think it's the ending that makes it truly great. I've never seen a movie where the villain and our hero both get what they want in the final moments of the film. Andrew Neiman becomes a great drummer, and Fletcher finally creates another bird, justifying his abusive teaching methods.
Parents musicians?
No, Dad's a writer.
Oh, what's he written?
I guess he's more of a teacher, really.
Oh. What about your mother? What does she do?
I don't know. She left when I was a baby.
You are a worthless, friendless, faggot-lipped little piece of shit whose mommy left daddy when she figured out he wasn't Eugene O'Neill, and who is now weeping and slobbering all over my drum set like a fucking 9-year-old girl.
In the final moments of the film, Andrew also gets the validation he's been looking for from a strong male role model, which we'll talk more about in just a few minutes. So Andrew and Fletcher are enemies going into this final sequence of the movie. Although, Andrew doesn't yet realize that he's being lured into a trap. It's right before the concert begins, Andrew dramatically finds that out.
You think I'm fucking stupid?
What?
I know it was you.
And we're going to do some old standards for you, but first we're going to start out with a new tune by Tim Simonek called Upswinging.
So Fletcher sets his revenge in motion, choosing music he knows Andrew is not prepared to play, eventually sending Andrew walking off stage, humiliated. After Andrew is humiliated, he walks off stage and he has that scene with his father, Jim, played by Paul Reiser. They hug, And Jim says,
Let's go home.
now I read somewhere they filmed a much longer scene with them side stage, which I thought was interesting. But the editor or, the director working with the editor, they eventually just cut it down to that one line. Come on, let's go home. And I think that's all you need, because this moment is what motivates him to go back on stage. But I think come on, let's go home is all you need. That's exactly what Andrew does not want to do. He can't be great at home. Home is where his failed father is. Home is where, although his father loves him, his father doesn't believe in him.
He saw me play today.
And? No. You got plenty of options still.
What does that mean?
Just
other options.
Just, it's just life.
His father doesn't seem to be like in tune with what he's up to with his life and how much he wants to accomplish and his ambitions and stuff. His father doesn't seem to be or noticing that in him, maybe.
Yes, I completely agree. But you've got options still. This is tantamount to, I don't believe in your talent. So the invitation from Andrew's father to pack it up and come home is the final burst of motivation that Andrew needs to defiantly walk back on stage.
What are you doing?
So walking back on stage, Andrew kicks off Caravan, a piece that he knows. And over the course of the performance, he wins Fletcher over to his side just by the sheer brilliance of his skill. I mean, over the course of the performance, Fletcher goes from nose-flaring hatred to fixing Andrew's cymbal when it's knocked off kilter. So they begin working together, and by doing so, they both realize their dreams. In the final moments of the film, Andrew proves to the world he's a great drummer, and Fletcher finally creates the next great musician like Charlie Parker. As a cherry on top, Andrew doesn't know this yet, but his father, watching from backstage, finally sees the talent that his son has in that great eyes growing up shot.
I absolutely remember that shot, and I was like, wow, what a great shot. Like, he is the acting there is great. He's so dumbfounded by what he's witnessing, and he's communicating so much. Like, so this is what he's been up to. Like, I'm realizing what's going on here, and that's brilliant. I definitely will never forget his face there. And as you were talking right before then, I was thinking that's an eyes growing up scene.
We came up with this eyes grew up thing from the movie Brokeback Mountain. I turned to my brother Joe and I go, those eyes just grew up.
Yeah.
I think a lesser actor for eyes growing up, their eyes go, but his eyes don't get wider.
Right.
To your point of the amazing acting in that moment from Paul Reiser, his eyes don't get wider. It's his face like drops. And it's like,
he's dumbfounded.
He's dumbfounded, which is, oh God, it's such a great moment.
It's fantastic.
Another dynamic of this ending, Fletcher as a character is vindicated. His controversial teaching methods have finally paid off. He's finally created and given to the world another great musician. Now, John, we actually watched this movie together. You were in town to see Browns versus Colts. Browns won, some bad calls there at the end.
That's true.
Which you admitted. And then I sat you down to watch Whiplash. It's the movie I show all my friends if they haven't seen it. If they actually haven't seen it somehow, I sit them down to watch it. And we watched that movie. And when the credits were still rolling, you turned to me and said, are we supposed to feel good about that ending? So I'll ask you now, what did you mean by that?
Well, in that moment, I was thinking, I don't know how to feel right now. And I'll tell you why. That movie does a good job of setting up the concept of being number one. The key part setting that up is the dinner scene.
Did you hear it yet?
No, what happened? Drive got named this year's MVP.
That's fantastic, Travis. And Dustin is heading up Model UN, soon to be Rhodes Scholar, and who knows what all else. Wow. And Jim, Teacher of the Year.
Well, hey,
I
listen,
mean, come on, the talent at this table, that is stunning. And Andy, with your drumming.
Fletcher does this too. I mean, his whole career is a failure if he can't get somebody to be Bert.
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job. The truth is, Andrew, I never really had a Charlie Parker. But I tried. I actually fucking tried. And that's more than most people ever do. And I will never apologize for how I tried.
And later, when I was thinking about it, it brought up something else that interests me about movies, which is what is the intention of the director or the script or the people involved versus how people receive it and what they get out of it. And I think for me, it was about that second thing. What am I getting out of that? And I don't view it as a win or a happy ending. I view it as people who are obsessed and trying to achieve something that doesn't mean anything, really. I mean, if that's what makes them happy, fine. But for me, it made me uncomfortable. I don't want to break my back and spend my entire life obsessed for something that may or may not be there. Even if it is there, you'll die. And then so what? I mean, yes, you may be celebrated like Charlie Parker, but you won't be around. I mean, so that won't be for you. That'll be for other people. Life, I mean, getting a little philosophical, but I don't necessarily want to break my back during my life. I want to enjoy my life as it's happening. So I guess that scene made me a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure what the intent was. I'm not sure if you're supposed to, maybe he's leaving it ambiguous. And maybe that's what some people want out of their life. And if they do, that's great. But I don't know how the viewer is. I really don't know how the viewer is supposed to take it. Your thoughts?
Well, so in terms of the ending and whether or not you're supposed to feel good about it, for me, as an audience member for myself, I feel great about it. You know, I feel like Andrew achieved what he wanted to achieve. We've seen his sacrifices. We've seen him put in the blood, sweat, and tears, and he's finally achieved his goal. He's finally achieved something great. And from my perspective, in my Hollywood pursuits, I often sort of frame it in my own mind as I want to do something great. So I relate to Andrew saying he wants to be great or one of the greats. And a huge part of my life personally, I've been defending my pursuits ever since I got out of college. And that's what Andrew's trying to do here at the dinner table.
It's going okay, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, it's going really, really well, actually. I'm part of Schaefer's top jazz orchestra, which means it's the best in the country. And I'm a core member, so I'll start playing in competitions. And actually, I found out I'm the youngest person in the entire band.
Well, how do you know who wins in a music competition? Isn't it subjective?
No.
Does the studio get you a job?
No, it's not an actual studio. It's just the name of the ensemble. But yeah, it's a big step forward in my career.
Well, I'm so glad you figured it out. It's a nasty business, I am sure. Oh, hey, are you going to tell them about your game this week? Huh? Living up to your title?
So I'm like, I identify with that big time. And I've told you this story. We'll leave his name out of it. But I got a call from a college buddy. And this is early in my Hollywood days. And I was getting meetings at all the studios. I was getting meetings. Did they lead anywhere? No, they did not. But he asked me how things were going out there. I told him, I gave him my answer. I said, dude, I just had a meeting at Paramount the other day. I'm pitching projects, blah, blah, blah. I gave him the answer. We didn't talk. We're not like close friends. He reached out and I gave him the answer I gave and he followed up. Oh, cool. But I mean, like, is that your day job? And I was furious. And the reason I was furious is because I was insecure about it. No, it's not my day job. I'm pursuing something different. But that kind of like, oh, but do you make money on it? Oh, do you make money on the comedy videos you put on YouTube? Like, it's so easy to put the beat down on these kinds of pursuits. So for me, the ending is a total victory for Andrew. He's become great. This is what his dream has been all along. And Fletcher has created the next bird. Now, but John, to your point, I did read a little bit. I try to avoid, reading about this stuff. But at one point I came across an interview with Damien Chazelle. And he mentioned that he wanted the end to be a little ambiguous, that the ending is, it's this great sort of emotional ending, but then he does want you to kind of think, well, what's the future like for Andrew? Is he going to die at 30 from a heroin overdose or, that kind of thing?
They cover that twice. One, which you just mentioned, where they're talking about how Charlie Parker ended up. And they also talk about what kind of, I can't remember when it happens, but they briefly touch on what his career would be. You're the greatest drummer in the world. Doing what? I think that your idea and mine can cohabitate a bit because I agree with your take on how he's feeling at that dinner table discussion. I totally agree. That's exactly what's happening. I just think that coexists with the notion that there's a culture of achievement and the way that people see achievement. And that's part of the theme of like this drive to be the best and the greatest that ever lived. There are several key moments that I think you can add onto the pile of ambiguity about how happy the ending really is. One of them is how he treats his girlfriend.
And when I did see you, you treat me like shit because I'm just some girl who doesn't know what she wants, and you have a path, and you're going to be great, and I'm going to be forgotten, and therefore you won't be able to give me the time of day because you have bigger things to pursue.
That's exactly my point.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
She doesn't even understand what she's hearing. Like, it's so insane. Like, and like daggers coming down that she can't be a part of his success. She's actually bad for his success. And I think that's a negative thing. That's like that casts a little bit of darkness on his life and what he wants to be and how he feels about the choices that he makes. Nobody has to end up with a significant other in their life. That's not, a requirement. But when people care about each other, and somebody decides that is not going to help in their life and casts that aside, that's hurtful. And to me, that's an argument to throw on the pile for the ambiguity of the ending. Yes, at what cost? You're the best now. At what cost?
I think those are excellent points. And I agree with you that is the function of her character, to cast doubt on his decisions. So point taken about the girlfriend, Nicole. But when Andrew quits drumming, John, and he packs up his drums, and the next scene he's working at a coffee shop or a sandwich shop, some 9 to 5, I do not believe the intention is for the audience to be like, oh, thank God he got rid of the drums. Like, hell no. But, look, Damien Chazelle himself said there's some ambiguity there. I never saw it the first 5 times I saw this movie. I do believe it's there. But for me, the ending is, my God, our hero wins and blows my mind away. The villain wins too in the exact same moment. Never seen that before.
Yeah, I like that you get something different out of it than I do. And I think that makes sense. Like, I reconcile those ideas just fine. I mean, I think there is a reason why you're attaching to slightly different concepts than I am. And I don't think that that's in conflict, really. I think that's kind of the brilliance, maybe, of what's going on in this movie. But these are some things that happen in life, and how you react to that is part of who you are.
I love it. Well said. So, John, I want to talk a little bit about the father-son relationship that's happening in this movie. There was this moment near the beginning, and when I first saw this movie, when it happened, I was like, what is that moment? When Andrew's in the movie theater with his dad, Jim, they're eating popcorn with Raisinets in them, and a guy walking behind them hits Jim's head with his popcorn bucket.
Yeah.
Immediately, Jim goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." And the guy doesn't say anything, just keeps walking. And then they cut to another angle. Andrew, it's not a big deal, but he is a little turned off by that moment. Now, when that happened, when I saw that, I was like, why is that there? Now, after I saw the movie and thought about it, it's there because of this theme that Andrew is looking for validation from a strong male figure, which his father is not. His father loves him. There's no doubt about that. That's so clear throughout the whole movie. His dad adores him, but doesn't believe in his drumming. He's encouraging and nice and practical, but he's weak. Fletcher is not. That moment is there to draw a distinction between the father and Fletcher. Also in that movie scene, they're joking about the snacks because he put the Raisinets in the middle.
I don't want the Raisinets. Why'd you say that? I just eat around them. I don't understand you.
Now, it's a humorous line, but here we have it right there in black and white. I don't understand you. Exactly.
Oh, my dear God. Are you one of those single tear people? Do I look like a double fucking rainbow to you?
Now, after Andrew is berated for the first time, for Andrew, this is like a major step back in his goal of becoming a great drummer. He thought he was on Easy Street. He's in Fletcher's band. Suddenly he's brought back down to earth.
Whiplash.
And there's a shot of him after this scene. He's sitting there and his dad calls on the cell. Now, why doesn't he pick up for his dad? He doesn't pick up for his dad because he can't face his dad. And there might be some worry there that his dad's right. You still have other options. Right after that, going back to our beat leads to the next beat. The next scene from his dad calling and him not picking up is a montage of him printing out music and practicing the drums until his hands bleed. So everything's a motivation for this guy. But the lack of belief and validation from his father, and maybe some fear of Andrew's of turning into a quote unquote failure like his father, sends Andrew looking for validation elsewhere.
So how's it going with the studio band?
Good. Yeah, I think he likes me more now.
And his opinion means a lot to you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Also, when they meet with the lawyer after the car accident.
Yeah.
The father defends his son in that scene.
Do you think that I would let him put my son through hell and then just walk away scot-free? Don't you know I would never let that happen? That there is nothing in the world more important to me than you. Don't you know that?
And he barely nods. Because I think the answer in Andrew's mind is no. He doesn't understand that. Because his dad doesn't understand his talent and passion for drumming, and that's all that Andrew cares about, because that's not there, whether it's justified or not, Andrew has gone elsewhere for that validation and support. And then, of course, we talked about it at the end. The father finally understands his son's talent. John, the color scheme of this movie, I'm calling music and Andrew's envy. Our friend Steve Brenning, I showed him the movie as well. And he's the one who kind of turned me on to a very clear color scheme going on in the movie. If you just scroll through the movie, like on your desktop quickly, you just see tons of gold, yellow, and green. The gold and yellow, I think of musical instruments, the brass family. And Andrew is living in this alternate dreamlike world. The green, I would argue, represents envy or jealousy. That goes back to Shakespeare.
Oh, but what am I going to jealousy?
It is the green-eyed monster that doth mock the meat it feeds on.
In contrast to the yellow, gold, and greens, there are several scenes in Whiplash that effectively use the cold, harsh light of day as a juxtaposition to this sort of dreamy alternate reality that Andrew is living in. Pretty close to the beginning, they show Andrew walking down his dorm at the music school. It's totally green. He's walking by all these students talking and hanging out and partying. He's not friends with any of them, and we can feel his isolation. And he's jealous of what they have. Now, he's made a clear choice, going back to the Nicole stuff, he's made a clear choice to exclude all that. He says at the dinner scene, no, I don't have friends, because he's focused 100% on his drumming, but he's still jealous of the people who do. And there's that big moment with Ryan, the drummer. That's total envy. Carl Tanner, the first drummer in Fletcher's class, wearing a green shirt. It stands out of everything that everyone's wearing. And to me, that's envy again, because Andrew wants that position in the band. Going back to the cold, hard light of day, the first time we see that, the first time we're snapped out of this dreamy gold, yellow, and green, is after Andrew is berated by Fletcher for the first time.
Carl, start practicing harder, Neiman. Whiplash, bar 125, big boy tempo.
He leaves the building and boom, it's daylight. Now, that juxtaposition is jarring. You're like, whoa, it's like waking up. He's back down to earth, and it's, a hard, cruel world. This may be a stretch, but the breakup scene at the diner with Nicole, it's somewhere in between. It's not the cold, hard light of day. There's still some yellows and green, but it's like somewhere in between. He's talking about music, but it's still like real life. He's breaking up with this girl. So I see that scene as this weird sort of in the middle ground. Also, just in terms of screenplay structure, the breakup scene is at 50 minutes. It's about halfway through the movie. This is our point of no return. Our hero is in, there's no going back. So he's even breaking up with his girlfriend to fully focus on drumming. We call that moment the point of no return. The story is built to the point, there's no going back. Speaking of Nicole getting in the way of the drumming, there's a great visual metaphor for that when Andrew is on the bus watching a clip of, I believe, Buddy Rich play the drums. And the video stops when a text comes in from Nicole. I mean, it's literally, she's getting in the way of his drumming. That also happens in the cold, harsh light of day.
Come on in, Connolly.
Ryan almost always wearing red. And the only thing I can think there is he's like the shiny new thing.
Perfect, Connolly. See, this to me is the beauty of studio band. You walk in here an alternate, who knows when you could be the new core.
Car crash sequence, obviously that entire sequence, cold, harsh light of day, like this is real world shit going on.
Okay, look, why don't you just tell Fletcher that I'm coming, you motherfucker!
When Andrew is kicked out of school, he's sitting in the hallway of the practice area of the school, and the hallways are red. Now, red typically represents intense feelings in movies. Anger, rage, passion, love. Well, we know he's angry. We know he's full of rage. We just saw it.
The green also goes along. When they open their instrument cases, those cases are usually lined with that green felt. I definitely noticed that. And as someone who has been in band and orchestras, like all of my trumpet cases had that green felt in them, and the contrast of the gold brass and the green is just very familiar to anybody who's been in like music or in a band. And the gold instruments tarnish towards a green.
Cool. Yeah, I do think, again, by lighting everything with those tones, it's the world he's living in. Andrew is completely focused in music. And then when he steps out of that world, it's just a jarring juxtaposition. Now I'm just going to throw a few random things that I noticed in the movie that didn't quite fit into these other categories, but a movie structure point. When Fletcher pulls Andrew out of that lower level class.
Drums with me. Thank you, Joe. No, other drums.
This, we would call that the inciting incident. It usually happens around page 10. This is at the 12-minute mark, but this is the inciting incident that sort of like launches our story.
Room B16 tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Don't be late.
About 15 minutes into the film, rushing to his first class with Fletcher. This is foreshadowing of the car accident to come. The pressure that he's under and rushing and, bad things happening. Let's get real for a second is a character note. Fletcher is a borderline sadist. That scene where he walks into class and all the students, have their eyes down on the ground. It's like they've been tortured. It's like he came down into the pit. Put the lotion on, puts the lotion on. Now, John, you're going to love this one. The pudgy student Mets.
The trombone player.
Wearing a white t-shirt.
Yeah.
This is an homage to Full Metal Jacket. Fletcher is a drill sergeant.
Do you think you're out of tune?
He berates them just like the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket.
Yes.
Then why the fuck didn't you say so?
Gomer Pyle. He's got the white shirt. He's chubby.
What is that, Private Pyle?
Sir, jelly donut, sir!
A jelly donut?
Sir, yes, sir!
How did it get here?
It's the same dynamic with Fletcher and Andrew.
I'll fucking kill you.
The drill sergeant's pushed too far.
Full Metal Jacket.
And it leads to violent results in both in Full Metal Jacket and Whiplash.
I do like that.
Now, one more thing about Fletcher's character. I said he's a borderline sadist. I agree with that. But he's not. He's not a psychopath.
Are you playing an instrument yet?
She started piano last week.
Hey, when you're a big college kid, will you come play in my band?
Would you like that?
Be my piano player? Excellent. Give me 5, baby. All right. Hey, great to see you.
Great seeing you.
The purpose of that scene is to show he's not a total psychopath, for God's sake. He's way more complex than like bad teacher. Sometimes we call this moment, usually it's done for the hero and usually it's done earlier, but it's kind of like a save the cat moment. Blake Snyder's save the cat moment where you see your main character help an old lady across the street or literally save a cat, like do something nice for somebody near the beginning. But that's what that scene is there for, to show that Fletcher has this other side. Two quick lighting things. In the final concert sequence, after Andrew blows it and has humiliated himself, there's a shot behind Andrew at his drum kit, and the lights at the bottom of the stage, warm, orange type warm lights come on all along the bottom of the screen. To me, that is to signify hell. That's where he is. He's in hell. This is the worst possible thing for him. His dream is being ripped away.
Yeah, I guess maybe you don't have it.
Now, in this metaphor, Fletcher is the devil, and he's certainly shot that way at various times in this final sequence. But then, at the very end of the movie, after Fletcher and Andrew start working together as they're performing Caravan, they're back on the same team. They're about to achieve their goals together. Fletcher, a light comes on behind Fletcher and above because he's no longer the devil in this scenario. He's become an angel. Well, John, thank you so much for chatting with me about Whiplash 2014, written and directed by Damien Chazelle. Love the movie. I know you love the movie.
It was awesome. I really like it. I think that it's an interesting movie and it takes you along for a ride.
Awesome. And if you're listening to us right now and you haven't seen the movie, then you didn't listen to me at the top. You got to go see the movie. You got to go see Whiplash. All right, John, take it easy, buddy.
Peace in the Middle East.
There it is. Peace.